Right, that is working. That off. Okay. Good evening. It's Wednesday again, and we're going to talk some numbers, get all the financial stuff for the week. We had a fantastic week. It was awesome. Probably the best week we've had in about a year. We have an $8,000 goal for each truck, and we hit it. Six trucks running, $8,000 goal. The goal was $48,000 total revenue for the fleet, and we were at like 49,175, something like that. So it was a fantastic week. YouTube, Facebook, y'all hearing me okay? Looks like we got rolling. So we had one truck switch from dry van to flatbed, and boy, he would have been number one. But unfortunately, he had two loads booked with one agent, and the total revenue for the week for that truck was going to be over $13,000. Not bad for his first week venturing into platform, but on the first of those two loads, he got delayed by the shipper, and he could not make the pickup time. So he ended up sitting all week. I'm sorry, he ended up sitting all weekend and still did 8,250. You have audio bleed through from somewhere else. Interesting. Okay, how about now? How about now? You'll have to let me know. Checking, waiting, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or maybe it's the metal plate in Blake's head that's making him hear things that aren't there. Oh, I know what it is. Never mind. Hang on. I found it. Fixed it. There you go. I used my mic the other day, and it's still plugged into my computer, my camera, and it's laying over there, and it was picking it up. So that should have fixed it. All righty. So anyway, would have been an unbelievable week for one guy. He was really happy about a $13,000 week in this market, but things happen. And he's still on another killer week right now. He's over 9,000 for this week. Anybody wants to know about Conestogas? They make killer money. We have been very, very happy with the Conestoga trailer since we got it, and we're about to have a second one running. So, yeah, buddy, you're getting blocked. Yeah, well, have a nice day. So anyway, so I guess without further ado, let's dive into the numbers. Now, if you've watched this before, I've got a little bit different format for TikTok and YouTube. So let me put this over on the screen for the YouTube, and I'm going to put it up on the screen for y'all in TikTok land. So this here is our top truck for the week. He did $9,800 in total gross revenue, $6,956.57 net revenue. That's after Landstar's percentage. The driver pay $2,118.52. The payroll cost would be $233.04. That's 11%. When you run a payroll, when you pay people, it costs you more than what you pay them. So a bunch of y'all should keep that in mind. Fixed expenses, $91.50. Other expenses, $11.25. Fuel cost, $1,330.35. That gave us a profit before maintenance of $2,681.91. Now, I'm gonna pause here for a second. I'm gonna reiterate this maintenance thing. So, in case it's your first time, And if it's not your first time, you can hear it again. Um, we always had used from the time Larry got into the business in '09 all the way up through the last couple years, we had said that 15 cents per mile was adequate. When I had my truck after my crash and burn, and I did a forensic analysis of my operation, 18 cents a mile would have covered everything that happened with my truck. I would not have been broke. I would not have been out of business if I would have saved 18 pennies for every mile I put on that truck. So it worked, you know. Well, I did an analysis on 4 trucks. I did that about a month ago, and I did 2 old trucks and 2 new trucks. So I did a '04 Freightliner, an '07 Freightliner, a '17 Freightliner, and an '18 Freightliner. Lifetime, the whole time that we've had those trucks, and what the average came out to was 25. And we all know, operating in 2024, that the cost of repairs and maintenance has gone up while the quality of parts and service has gone down. So that jives with everything that we've seen. So what we've done here is in this analysis, and these are numbers that come straight from our Landstar settlement. What I've done here is I'm saying that this on the right screen here, this profit before maintenance of $2,681.91 is before any money is saved for maintenance. So this is net settlement. This would not include, now this includes scales, of course, because they come off the fuel card. But like if you paid cash for a scale or you paid for parking, um, little cash receipts, if you bought printer paper, that's not included in these numbers. But this is everything net settlement. That 2681.91 is what you should be putting in the bank into your general account after you have paid yourself as a driver. Now we pay our drivers 25%. So this is what our drivers got paid for this week. And I would encourage you as an owner operator to pay yourself a salary, especially if you're going to run the truck correctly and make, north of $150,000 a year. I would highly, highly, highly recommend you have an LLC and an S corp set up so that you don't get your head taken off with taxes. So that's why we do the 25%. And that's why we talk about this and show you what that payroll cost would be. Because if you're going to run an LLC with a subchapter S election, you're going to have to run payroll. All right. So you're going to have to pay your 7.65 self-employment tax. You're going to have some fee associated with the payroll company that's taking care of that for you, because they're going to file all the 941s. They're going to take care of those payroll taxes so that you don't get yourself in a situation. They're going to do that for you. So that comes at a cost. And that's why we say, if you're going to do an LLC and an S corp, you better make more than $65,000 a year in order to afford those extra costs. And if you're going to get into business as an owner operator, you damn sure need to be making more than $65,000 a year. It is not worth it to be an owner operator and only make $65,000 a year. You should be making double that. In some cases, triple that. So that's what you need to be doing with your taxes. Okay, so let's go back to put this back up here. So the truck had a fuel cost of $1,330.35. So the profit before maintenance, 2681.91. So the cost per mile, again, before maintenance was $1.15. So add 25 to that. What's that? $1.40. The gross rate per mile, $2.98. Net rate per mile, that's what that would be after Landstar's contractual percentage, $2.11 all miles. These are all miles. That's not for loaded miles only. That's for all miles. $2.11 net. So our net after we subtract our maintenance, after all of our expenses are paid, is 71 cents a mile. That's after the driver's been paid. That's after all the settlements have been, all the insurances, all the deductions, all the little stuff that comes out of the settlement. You have a net of 71 cents a mile. So the profit after we would save for maintenance would be $2,349.41. And then if you add the profit after maintenance, so you've paid everything, all of the costs associated with running the truck that week, you have put 25 cents a mile aside for maintenance, and you add back that driver pay, that what was it, $2,118.52. You add those two together, and you're going to have an approximate net weekly profit, $4,467.93. So if this driver number one here, who's pulling a 48-foot flatbed, and this was all legal freight, no oversize, if he owned this truck, then his profit for that week would be $4,467.93. Now, the beautiful thing about doing the S Corp is he's not paying the same taxes on this $4,467. He's paying the most of the taxes on the 2,118. The balance of that just gets taxed as a dividend. Okay. Not bad for a dude pulling a flatbed. Okay. So let's go to truck number two, which surprisingly enough was a van truck. Van truck had a very good week this week. He did 3,364 miles loaded and empty. So we had total gross $8,761.99. Net revenue $6,164.94. Driver pay $1,855.04. Payroll cost $204.05. Fixed expenses $185.94. The reason that this one is higher than the first one is that truck is paying $94 a week for base plates. So, and I think that's paid off next week. So a lot of these fixed expenses, they kind of go up and down, because one week they'll have the IFTA settlement, and another week we'll put tolls on there, and another week, something else, right? So all that fixed expenses, they kind of change, because they're all not divided by 52. Other expenses, $13. This is, $1.75 for loading a fuel card, $2 for scanning through TransFlow to send the paperwork in. Fuel cost $1138.25. Profit before maintenance $2,330.56. $1. Okay, so we're talking about $1.26 cost to operate this truck right now in 2024. That's fantastic. $2.60 gross rate per mile, $1.83 net. Obviously, he ran a bunch of miles. 57 cents net after maintenance. So the profit after maintenance, $1,927.66. $3,782.70 net, which, if you look at the total number of miles, that is more than $1 per mile left over. Phil has spoken. Let me see what Phil's speaking about. Let me get this off. Explain deadhead to these folks using the actual miles driven and the net revenue. Do you mean explain it like we explained it last night? Is that, we had a side conversation about deadhead last night. Explain deadhead using the actual miles driven and the net revenue. I think I know where you're going, but Phil, I need a little more clarification. Yes. Okay. So there was a spirited discussion last night in one of our private groups about deadhead. Okay. Deadhead comes at a cost, right? Okay. So we've always talked about how our average cost per mile is around $1.58 when you spread out over time. Looking at a month or a quarter, we're between $1.50 and $1.60. Okay. So if you drive a mile, that's $1.60. If you go to Walmart and it's 5 miles away. That's a buck 60 for 5 miles, right? You know, yes, kinda. But deadhead is not number one, it's not an expense. You can't say, "Oh, well, I drove this many deadhead miles and it cost me this, so I'm gonna write that off my taxes." So in that sense of the word, deadhead is not an expense. It's just something you do to get from one load to another. So the question was, well, how much deadhead is too much? Depends. If you had a load paying $8,000 that went 500 miles and you had to deadhead 3,000 miles to get it, would you haul the load? Um, our goal's 8,000 a week. You can drive about 3,500 miles a week. So if I drive the maximum number of miles that I can drive in a 70-hour clock and I meet my revenue goal, does it matter if the trailer was loaded or not? I don't think so. Now, we're going to be hard pressed to find an $8,000 load that goes 500 miles, and nor are we going to need to deadhead 3,000 miles to get it. But the point is, there's no blanket answers when it comes to pretty much anything in business. Every scenario and every case has to be looked at, because I think in this case, the driver was looking at a load that paid like $4,600, but he was going to have to deadhead almost 600 miles to get it. Well, at $1.50 a mile times 600, well, that's $900 in cost. But that's not really the case, because we have to look at the whole week. We have to look and say, okay, well, if I pick up I'm already on a $4,800 load, right? And I'm delivering that $4,800 load, and I get a $4,600 load to go with it. And I picked the first one up on Monday, and I'm going to deliver the second one the following Monday. So I'm going to do 9,300. Well, then if I drive the maximum number of miles that I can drive in a week, who cares? I don't care, right? Oh, but you should try to get the most rate and drive the least miles. Well, sure you could. Yeah, that's not an invalid strategy, but in a lot of cases, it's an impractical strategy that can lead you to failure to launch. It leads to failure of you putting the damn truck in gear and going to work. Well, I'm only going to haul for X number of dollars per mile. Okay. Well, when you're not moving and you're sitting in the truck stop bitching on Facebook about the rates, you're not making any money, $0. So I'll put, I put three $2,300 loads on a guy this week. Okay, that's $7,900. Do the miles matter? Not really. As long as he can log it, and as long as he has the hours to do it and can do a restart, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Um, when and the unfortunate truth that a lot of people want to ignore is the fact that in a market like this, you're going to work harder for less money. Well, if you have a work ethic, that's not a problem. Because I bought a truck to go to work. That's the point. So get off your ass and go to work. Go get what you can. Um, and sometimes what you get ain't gonna be all that great. And sometimes you're gonna get there and somebody made a mistake and the load canceled or something out of your control happened. Listen, I know this is hard to kind of handle, but you don't have to have someone to blame every time something goes wrong. You don't need vengeance and justice. Sometimes you just need to move on. Well, okay, can't do anything about that. What's the next thing? And turn on a dime and leave that behind you and move on to the next thing and stop being such a candy ass that complains about everything and everybody all the time. Oh, there's another one that's getting blocked. Okay. I've been watching the TikToks. Let me see. Um, do you think that 17 Cascadia would have made maintenance costs more expensive? Yeah, that truck is over 40 cents a mile because we had to replace that $9,000 transmission. Now, the more we drive that truck and the longer that is spread out, that cost is obviously going to come down. But that's the negative of running a truck with a DT12 transmission is it has a $9,000 transmission. And there's no repairing it, it's non-serviceable. So that was 9 grand plus labor. It was expensive. Um, oh my gosh, Tyler. One of my coworkers is selling his truck, mileage of 165K, 24 Kenworth. He's asking for $155,000. At my company, owner operators get paid $1.40 per mile. Is this a good deal? Or run from this? Run. I mean, run as fast as you can possibly run. God almighty. That's insane. Terry, is the van running the Northeast? No. Let me look and see what he did. See here. He did Ohio to PA, Maryland to Georgia, South Carolina to PA, and Ohio to Texas. So the furthest he got north was York, Pennsylvania. G7 Gaming. What's going on, Chris? I finish up the onboarding process with Landstar tomorrow and can't wait to join. Join us or join Landstar? Gosh, what is up? I've got a block and is spamming my comments. How dare you? Well, I wish they'd give me a way to delete that garbage. Anyway, well, so much. So this is what we have to deal with. Hey, I got a little truck story for you. So we have an '01 Columbia in the shop right now. We're doing an engine swap. Guy bought it for super cheap. Is that is that another different one? I thought I just blocked him. We block him again. So we got this truck doing an engine swap, and dude got it super cheap, like $3,000, $3,500, and so it had a locked up motor, spun bearing. So we did the engine swap, but it has an axle that has what are called oh shoot. Anyway, they're not oil bath hubs. They got like packed grease in them, and so the hubs are like $1,800 a piece. So and they're non-serviceable, and the kingpins are smoked. So we're looking at having to replace these hubs at a cost of like $3,600, or replace the axle. We have a we have an axle out of a wrecked truck. So I was kind of looking around, and so I'm so distracted by this. I'm having to pop up and block these bastards on TikTok. So I start digging around in the literature on this Meritor axle. Rocky was telling me that maybe we could swap the spindles. We could do different things, but it was going to get expensive. So I was looking like $6,000, $6,500 to um, to do all this, and so I so I ended up talking to a guy at Meritor, and the guy at Meritor says that there is a direct replacement. It's an engineered direct replacement for this axle. I'm like, okay, well, tell me more. And it comes with everything. It comes with brakes and drums and um, everything that you would want um, from drum to drum. And so I called my guy, and it's not a Hendrickson, it's a Meritor. I called my guy at the Detroit shop and I gave him the part number. I'm like, can you look this up for me? And he was like, yes. He looks it up. It's $5,500. And I'm like, okay, like 5,500 bucks. And all we have to do is cut the U bolts off, slide it under there. Um, oh, son of a, slide it under there, put new U bolts on it. It's done. Um, and I'm like, that's awesome. Well, he called me back and he said, well, I got more information. They don't have them in stock, but they are made to order. I'm like, okay, well that's cool, made to order. He said, yeah, but they're made to order in Asheville, North Carolina. Okay, well, y'all may or may not have heard some news about Asheville, North Carolina here lately. Um, so that was not a fun experience. So anyway, um, maybe we can order it now and we'll get one next summer sometime. I don't know. But probably folks in Asheville, North Carolina, probably going to be not too worried about building me a new axle. So anyway, all right. So y'all want to do one more? Y'all want to do more? Lord have mercy. It's amazing to me that if you say the wrong word on TikTok, you get your whole live shut down. You get kicked out of the creator fund. You get your count restricted and strikes. But yet, I'm assuming these are bots because this one's Landstar Lounge Revenge, one named Blue Ribbon Logistics. They just keep coming. And TikTok, listen, if you have got the algorithmic uh, ability to find out when somebody says a word you don't like, you can get rid of these fuckers. Okay. I promise you can. Promise you can do it. All right. So let's get back to our report and we'll do the third and final truck. Lord have mercy. Now, and I've lost the. Wow. They're impressive. I need a like an assistant that can just sit here and just block this bullshit. Okay, truck number 3. Gross income. Let's see. This one was 2,023 miles. Well, here's the problem about ignoring them, right? If you ignore them and let them keep going, they'll eventually get the live taken down because of the emojis that they're putting in. That's kind of part of the point. Is you're basically getting spammed by these emojis that are grapefruits, but you know what people think they are. And so I have to block them because they're going to get my live taken down. Um, yeah, it's a pain in the ass to deal with. So block this one. This is so fucking stupid to deal with this bullshit. Okay, 8,250 miles, net revenue 5643. Listen, y'all can look at the numbers. I'm busy. Y'all can see what we're dealing with here. But Again, we had a truck that goes, and this is the Conestoga guy that would have been $13,000, with a weekly net profit of $3,300. So, um, you know, uh, y'all get the point. But like I said, these are the numbers straight off of our settlement. So, if you want to learn about how we do this, this is what the program's about, and it's not just about showing you these numbers. Okay, um, it's about. Oh, I'm gonna preemptively block you because I know where this is going. I ain't got no panties on. Yeah, you're getting blocked. Um, Sorry if you weren't going to spam me, but your your names ain't got no panties on. I stopped dealing with that shit in the '90s. Um, it's about the daily habits that you have to be in business. Oh, here's a good one. I'm gonna tell one on one of my boys. All right, Travis. Hope you're watching this. So we booked a load. One of our dispatchers booked a load, and she had called the agent because she had done business with him before. And she was like, "Hey, I got a guy in this area. Do you have anything?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, I got something." And I guess he on the phone he said it was going to Wisconsin. Okay, so the rate con comes in, and apparently nobody read it. So she books him a load out of Wisconsin. And so today, um, he is like, "Yeah, man, I'm about empty." And so she sent him this other load, and he's like, "Well, that's a 400-mile deadhead." And she's like, "How's it 400-mile deadhead?" And he's like, "'Cause I'm in Omaha." And she's like, "What the fuck are you doing in Omaha?" So, you know, when somebody tells you that they booked you a load to Wisconsin, you get a rate con and a bill of lading that says you're going to Omaha, might should raise your hand and say, "Hey, listen, I know you think I'm going to Wisconsin, but I am not, in fact, going to Wisconsin. I'm actually going to Omaha. So maybe you should book the next load out of Omaha and not out of Wisconsin." So there was a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth around the office today when I heard that conversation going down. Because when I heard that, why the fuck are you in Omaha? I just spun my chair around and I'm like, please, which one of my drivers took a load to the wrong state? Because that's happened before. Um, so, um, but you listen, y'all, you have to think about the um, little details that never mattered when you were a company driver, right? You have to think about every letter that's on that bill of lading because when you're in business, the details matter. And you can't just ignore stuff like this. You have to make sure that the freight bill matches the bill of lading and that that the count is right. And stuff that listen, doesn't matter when you're a company driver. You can screw it up. They ain't worried. They don't care. They'll fix it. Not when you're in business. When you're in business, you have to be the one that finds and solves all of those problems. Now it would be easier to say, "Oh, well, this was 100% on the dispatcher." Well, okay, and she later she was like, "Yeah, that was on me. I didn't see it. I put the load into the spreadsheet. I didn't catch it, right?" But drivers, truck drivers of all shapes, sizes, and colors, you know that shit rolls downhill and you're at the bottom. Um, so um, you have to be the last line of defense um, of making sure that that customer's taken care of, that load gets where it needs to go. Um, you know what's funny? This I want to believe that it's a person that's spamming the comments right now, but I don't think it can be because every one of these that pops up has 0 followers, 0 following. You can't create like, if you just wanted to mess with me, you could not create count accounts that quickly, but then whatever this bot is, number 1, it used the name Greg Nelson. I mean, a guy that works for Landstar in corporate. Like, it's somehow it's it must be going through the videos. Um, oh, well, that's funny. Anyway, um, well, says I'm a real person. Well, I'll tell you what. If you were a real person, and I could have your coordinates and the controls to a drone, let me tell you what I would do with them. Um, so, do you think a guy could do at home day almost daily run a truck and make a good living? No, no, not with Landstar. You possibly, if you came in and worked like an animal for about 3 years, to where you had your truck paid off, and um, then maybe you could work yourself into a position, but you're not going to do that at Landstar, and you're probably not going to do that as an owner operator without unbelievable levels of hard work. Um, so it's very, very difficult to survive in business. And so if you think that you're going to get into business and it's going to be easy, it's not going to work. Um, and that's the thing that nobody wants to hear. They hate their job as a company driver. They hate their dispatcher. Um, they hate everything about the job, and they think, oh well, I'll solve that by becoming an owner operator. No, all you've done is given yourself 35 more problems. Um, and and then when it all goes bad, um, you'll blame everybody but yourself. Uh, what's your opinion on Western Star 49? I don't really care. I mean, look, a truck is a truck. Um, I mean, you can make money with a 95 379 Peterbilt. Yeah, it just doesn't matter. I'm going to go with a truck that has the lowest cost of operation, and I'm going to pay as little for it as I can possibly pay. I don't care what it looks like. That is the absolute last thing that I care about is what does it look like? I don't care if it has shiny paint. I don't care. It just does not matter to me. Um, it's of the least importance to me, of whether or not it looks good, or you know I care about the suspension, I care about the brakes, I care about the engine and the transmission, and I want the truck to be as reliable and efficient as possible. So look, all trucks are durable. I mean, um, um, you know, but you have to think about the risk. Like for example, I don't care what brand it is. If it's an '08 to 2015, I'm not using it. Period. You can give it to me and I'll just part it out. A 2008 to 2015 anything is an absolute no-go. Um, you know, but that's and the reason that we run primarily Columbias and Centuries is because they're easy to work on. They get good fuel mileage. The parts are readily available. Um, you know, they're just easy to work on. Um, so that's why we choose those. Um, I don't really care about anything other than that. I just noticed that a lot of people when they start talking about, the Western Stars and trucks like that, that more often than not, that may be not the case with you, but more often than not, they want them because they're pretty. I think they're ugly as hell. I've never, um, I mean, some of the early um, what do they call it, Constellation, were pretty good trucks, but I always hated um, the Western Stars, how they looked. What do I think about 12.7s? Probably about the best um, engine ever made. Um, I mean, 3406 Cat C15 N14 Cummins, but um, I love 12.7s. We were working on one today. Can I make a living working regional out of Salt Lake City, Utah with Landstar? Mm. It's um, unlikely just because of the um, Phil says regional Salt Lake, no. Um, oh, this is somebody that knows me well. What can a man get accomplished in a 1988 Dodge Colt? All kinds of chicanery and foolishness. That's what a man can get accomplished in a 1988 Dodge Colt. That was my first car, by the way, 1988 Dodge Colt. And if it could talk, we'd probably shoot it because it saw all kinds of stuff that it should have never seen. That poor thing's probably been crushed and recycled by now. But I love the messaging here in my TikTok troll. Watch what you say on Facebook, or I'll mass report your account. Okay, buddy. Precious. Some dude sitting in his mom's basement. Oh. So anyway, let's see. That thing got a Hemi. The best Colt I ever had, the Colt was a little Mitsubishi car that Dodge imported. The best one I had was an 81 model. I bought for $250 from a guy. I was delivering pizzas, and I, I took a Pizza Hut pizza to this dude's single wide trailer, and it was sitting out front. And my grandfather had like rebuilt those cars, so everybody in my family had one. He'd buy them wrecked and fix them up. And I said, "Hey man, what's the deal with that car?" And he's like, "Oh man, it doesn't run." And I'm like, "Will you sell it?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "What do you give me?" I said, $250. He was like, "Sold." Well, given that my grandfather had built them from the ground up, and I was like, "Well, what's wrong with it?" He's like, "It just won't run." I'm like, "Okay." So I stopped at the parts store, picked up plugs, wires, points, radiator or distributor cap and rotor button. And so I showed up with a bag and a couple of tools and popped the hood open and spent about 15 minutes, fired it up, backed it out of the driveway, and he just kind of stood there slack jawed. Um, because you can fix them with a crescent wrench and a screwdriver. And I bought another 88 when my daughter was little. I was delivering pizzas. One of the many times I tried to quit trucking. I bought it. I won an eBay listing for an 88 Colt for 75 bucks. And I told the guy, if you give me, I said, I'll give you another 75 if you'll bring it to me. So he brought it to me, and the timing belt had broke. So we had to put a head on it. Um, and so I drove it for, I don't know, 6 or 8 months. And then we used to have a thing here before Facebook. This was 2006. Before Facebook, there was a thing called the ad bulletin in West Virginia where you could just call a phone number and you could leave an ad. You leave a voicemail and it would, um, print out your thing. And I put it in the ad bulletin and I sold it for $650. Uh, so it was fun. Well, I guess I've about had enough of this. So this concludes your financial report for this week. We should be back with you Friday on the podcast. We were absent on the podcast last week because I had all kinds of family stuff going on, and Larry was out of town, and so thinking about all the folks down in Florida right now. We got some friends down there riding it out. So they are getting hammered right now. So everybody be watching out to give them a hand when it's all over. So with that, we will see y'all next time.